Today, I'm gonna show you how to quickly get started in OBS Studio on your first stream or screen recording. I'm gonna do this as quickly as I can, so if you need to follow along or need to skip forward to something, check the chapter markers or pause the video and go back. Let's do it. So the first thing you're gonna need is OBS Studio. So type in OBS Studio on Google. You're gonna go to obsproject.com. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna click on Windows if you have Windows, obviously Mac if you have Mac, obviously Linux if you have Linux. And as you'll notice in the bottom left-hand corner, it just downloaded the setup installation folder. So now what you wanna do is you wanna go ahead and click it to open it or find it in your download section. You're gonna wanna click next or yes. So I already have OBS Studio installed, so I'm not gonna be able to go through that screen with you, but all you need to know is that you just click next a few times and then it will pretty much be installed, and then open the program. So one of the first things that I like to do is I like to go into the settings menu and I click video. You're gonna see two resolutions in the video tab. You're gonna see the canvas and the scaled. The canvas is the max resolution for your monitor. So definitely pick the one that your monitor is. Mine happens to be a 4K monitor, so that's why you're gonna see this bigger resolution. Now, the scaled is what you're sending to your audience. It's what they're going to view on Twitch or YouTube, and most of the time, 1920 by 1080 is gonna be your go-to. Now, sometimes it's better to do 720p, and that's because it'll be a little easier for your audience to actually load up basically on their internet connection. Now, don't worry about the downscale filter. Bicubic is fine. The FPS values, 30 is generally recommended. Definitely can't go lower than that. But 30 is the one that's recommended because it's efficient and it doesn't use up a ton of space or energy on your computer. 60 frames per second, it becomes a little more important in gaming type settings where, you know, the overall smoothness of the video game is more important, but 30 frames per second is totally fine for 90% of all applications. So we're gonna stick with 30. All right, so you hit apply if you haven't already, and you hit okay. Now that we did our video settings, we're gonna go on to our scenes. We're gonna add a scene that's going to be our gameplay scene. Now, making a scene is super easy. All you gotta do is hit the little plus sign underneath the scene column. It says add scene. Hit the plus sign, give it a new name. We're gonna do game/screen record. Boom, there we go. Then we hit okay. You can name it whatever you want, of course. All right, so now the next thing, and this is where we start to compile all of our really fun elements within the scene. A scene is like the set. The sources are the things you put on that set. So let's go ahead and you can either right click and add, or you can hit this little plus button again. First and foremost, we're going to add a display capture. And again, it doesn't really matter what you call it. You just call it display capture. And you'll notice this big window popped up. And it's gonna ask you what display you want this on. For me, I have my 4K monitor and then my normal 1080p monitor. So we're gonna do the 4K monitor for me. Press okay. And now we're good. Now, if you ever come across a situation where let's just say, best example is like, it's like way over here or something. All you need to do to fix this, I know this looks really bad, like, oh my gosh, did I mess up some settings? But all you need to do is right click on the box, make sure it's highlighted. You hit transform, and then you hit fit to screen, and it should be a-okay. Should be all taken care of, no big deal. Great, awesome. Now the next thing that we need is, well, we need a webcam. You need to be able to most likely see yourself on there so your audience can see you. All we need to do to add a webcam is we need to right click and go add, or we can hit this nice plus sign at the bottom, and we need to go to video capture device. Now, this is the part I probably would recommend naming it so you at least know which one, especially if you get multiple at some point. I will name this my capture card. So AverMedia, not sponsored, sadly, 4K. All right, there we go. And just whatever I hook up to my AverMedia 4K will actually be this source. So we'll create no, it appeared. It shows my screen and my webcam. And of course you can change these. I have another one hooked up. If I wanted to have two cameras, then I would just add another source. Easy peasy, right? So we'll just keep it in this one for now. And all of this you just kind of ignore for now, and we go, okay. You will now see that we have something in our audio mixer. Now for me, I use a different audio device than my camera. So I'm going to come over here and I'm gonna hit this sound button and it's gonna mute it. So now I don't need it anymore. And if I wanna one up that, I can even hit these 3 dots and get rid of it altogether, hide it. Now what you can do is you can kind of just move this around wherever you want it to be. So I'm gonna put this in the corner. It's gonna auto catch on these corners. And I'm just gonna kind of minimize it right down. There we go. Easy. Now we have what's essentially our gameplay screen and essentially our webcam. So honestly, we're pretty much done with the first scene. It's very, very easy. We will add the audio in just a moment. By now, you probably noticed there are 2 of me on screen. In fact, there are 1,000 infinite amount of me on the screen. But we're gonna eliminate all of the duplicates just very soon. I'm just gonna add some quick color correction from my main camera just to show you kind of just what that feature is. In order to make it look nicer, you go to filters. So right click and then go to filters. And you can do this with any of the scenes, by the way, any of the sources rather. And I'm gonna go down here to effect filters. I'm gonna click the plus sign like normal. And I'm gonna go to color correction. Probably have heard of that one before. Just color correction, doesn't matter. And now I'm going to look over my other screen and just adjust the settings based on my current camera setup in my live stream. Your cameras will be different. Okay, so I went ahead and took some of my other settings and changed them to make them a little nicer. So now you have a better looking camera, right? And you have your gameplay or your screen recording. In order to make this video less confusing than it already is in terms of what you're seeing, I'm gonna go ahead and disable, by hitting the eyeball, disable that camera. Okay, so now that we have the camera figured out, we hit it because just for this video, it's confusing. I'm just gonna show you very briefly some other things you can do, and then we'll go add our second scene. Another really important, helpful thing that I won't go too far into is the browser source. So to get a browser source, you go add, and you click browser. And then these browser sources are basically anytime that you've seen on a streamer or a screen recording, there's been like a chat box that's been going down, or there is a, donations popping up on the screen. Usually all of these come from browser sources, these little notifications that come up, right? So let's just say for kicks and giggles, I chose chat box, right? So this means I would have a scrolling chat box. I'm not gonna set it up right now, but I could do that in a different video. So if I do chat box, then basically it's going to ask me for the URL. Now, you have to figure out which chat service you want to use. There's Stream Elements, there's some other ones that you can definitely go through, and basically they will provide notifications for you, the alerts. They will provide chat boxes and all these fun things that you could just mess around with. I'll do a separate video on all of that because really it could take a long time. But basically, when you make one in those websites or those programs, then you can just upload the URL right here and adjust the size accordingly and hit OK and you're good to go. So now that we have a basic scene for our screen recording and our gameplay, now what we need to do is add another scene, maybe 2 more. And I have some ideas for those. Now, what I would recommend is something that can be called an intermission screen, a talking screen, a just chatting screen, something that will be full screen of you talking and connecting to your audience. In order to do that, we need to come over here. We need to go back down to the plus icon. And this time we're gonna name it just chatting. What we're gonna do is we're gonna right click back here in the source section and add our video capture device again. Now you'll notice that because we already had made it, it's here. All you need to do is add existing, click it, and it will keep the filters you put on it as well. So now we have an easy way to get our video back. But what we need to do is very important. We need to right click here because it's not the full width of the screen, which is what we want. We need to right click, go down to transform, and then we need to fit to screen. Now, boom, look at that. We have a giant version of myself talking to you while there's a mini version in the corner of the video that I'm recording of this video. Inception. I would recommend adding one more scene, and that is a be right back scene. Because sometimes you gotta go to the restroom and you don't wanna just leave this up. It's dangerous. Twitch doesn't like it when you walk away from your stream. It's better to just be safe and just be like, be right back officially. So in order to make a be right back screen, we will go ahead and go add, and we will make ourselves a little text. We're gonna name this one Be Right Back, so BRB. So now we need to pick our font. I will go ahead and pick something like, we'll just go Bebus Nui, and just see how that looks. And we're gonna go ahead and make this a bit smaller because it's way too large. Now we're gonna go ahead and put Be Right Back. I'm gonna scroll down here, and thankfully we can see a preview of the text. I'm good with this for now. I'm gonna hit OK. And then we're just gonna make this guy really big. Look at that. Make him nice and big. See if we can get him towards the middle. But if not, we can just do this. If you need to nudge something, you can always hit the arrow keys, right or left. Now, of course, you can also add your logo here. So if I wanted to add my picture again, I would go image, and then I would just do my logo, right? And look, I am not even gonna try to center this. So you can do a transform and center to screen if you just are really having a hard time. There we go. Excellent. So now we have 3 scenes. We have our gameplay and screen recording scene. We also have our just chatting scene, our intermission, if you will. And we also have our bathroom break scene, our be right back. So we kind of have one of everything that you would need. Now, let's start filling in some of the extra details. Now, another really important detail is the actual transition that you use to get between them. Now, you could just keep this cross dissolve, right? It just kind of flips around. But I know a lot of people who don't really like the cross dissolve. So here's what we're gonna do instead. We're gonna add ourselves a stinger transition. In order to add a stinger transition, what you need to do is you need to come over here to the scene transitions menu, and I'll even move it over here. You can actually undock these things and move them around. So I'll move this over here. Now you need to come here to the plus sign, click that, and then you're gonna scroll down or get to stinger. And you could just call it stinger, it doesn't matter. Now I'm gonna go find a quick stinger that I got from a while ago from one of my older layouts. I got it from own.tv. Again, not sponsored. Okay, I found the file. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and you basically click on the file, and then now you're gonna skip past all of this and you're gonna hit preview transition. One thing to know that's super important about this, when you preview transition, the letter changes too quick. The letter A and B represent your 2 scenes, scene A and scene B. If you press preview and it immediately changes the letter and then the animation happens, then what's the point of the animation? It's not transitioning anything. It's just kind of awkward looking, right? So in order to fix that, all you gotta do is come over here to the milliseconds and the transition point. And what you need to do is, I know for this one, it's gonna be really high. For yours, it may not be that high because this one's just really slow. It needs more delay, basically. So I'm gonna put mine at, I think it was, say 1800 milliseconds. So now that we're at 1800 milliseconds, let's try it again. Preview. Excellent. You see how I can't see anything of the green? All we could see was the A collapsing, and then the switch happened. The actual scene switch happened while the animation was covering your view of it. So it didn't look awkward. And then when it came back out, it was able to show you the new scene. That's what we want. It looked good to me. So I'm gonna click OK. Okay, so now let's go over to our scene, a different scene, and see how it works. So clicking on this scene, we can see that it transitions smoothly and we're all good now. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and hit settings again. Remember, settings was in the bottom right-hand corner. I can move it around again. And basically, we're gonna go through a few of these settings. Now, I gotta say, this looks super intimidating, but please don't be concerned. There's really only like maybe 2% of this that you need as you're starting out. And as you get better and more knowledgeable, you'll dive deeper into some of this, but we really don't need most of it. So let me just go over the important bits. Just looking through this, you really don't need any of it. So we're gonna actually skip this altogether. Now, if you go to the stream section, this is how you connect to your account. whether you're streaming to Twitch or you're streaming to YouTube, Facebook, Restream, Twitter, it doesn't matter. They even have this massive list with things I have no idea what in the world is, like bonga cams. Have no idea what that is. Kakao TV, again, I don't know, but I'm sure they have pretty much everything that you would need. So we're just gonna move past that. Oh, Africa TV, we're gonna go to custom. All right, and if you're having trouble and you don't find the thing you're looking for, you can always do it this way too. But otherwise, let's just say that you are a normal person and you either stream on Twitch or you stream on YouTube. So I'm gonna go to YouTube. YouTube gives you streaming recommendations. Obviously my video bitrate is massively high, but that's only because I have a really good internet connection. Flex. We're gonna skip past this because that's kind of you connecting your own account as your business. We're gonna go to output. And output is pretty important, but we're gonna go to advanced to give us a few more options. Now, your encoder thing, if you have an NVIDIA card that's a 2000 series or later, maybe 1000 has it as well, you are gonna wanna do NVENC. Now, the NVENC encoder is so good. It's so freaking awesome. Everything streaming-wise that we're setting up here will be taken care of on this little tiny piece of the motherboard of this graphics card. And then the rest of the graphics card will be used for powering your game and the rest of your stuff that you need it for. Fantastic way of utilizing your graphics card. So if you have a 1000 series NVIDIA GPU or higher, I would definitely recommend this. Make sure you have that encoder chip that has NVENC. You can use X264, that basically means it's your CPU doing all of the work. Unfortunately, it is quite a bit slower unless you have maybe a double PC or a Threadripper or something crazy. So for X264 settings, very quickly, the main thing you're gonna wanna do is kind of bump up your bit rate. If you're streaming on Twitch, it's gonna be a max of 6,000. But for Twitch, I would also recommend something like 4,500 for consistency. And then maybe you'd want to put something like a medium. And the medium is a nice middle ground before you start hitting diminishing returns. So if you start going this way, then it starts looking a lot nicer. But the problem is it is harder for your CPU to manage it because it's so much more focused on quality, basically. Now, this up here in the higher end category is mainly going to be smoother. It's not necessarily gonna look better, but it'll be a smoother production. So medium is kind of the good balance. Anything other than that, I would not bother with if you have to use a X264. Now, this isn't counting if you have a nice double PC setup, but just for the normal person, this is fine. Moving on to NVENC, again, it depends on where you're streaming, what bitrate you'll have. So Twitch has a max bitrate of 3,000, of 6,000, right? But if you want a little bit more of a stable stream, especially if you're not a partner streamer, which will take a long time, I would probably just do something like 4,500. That way it is without the transcoding options, without the extra mumbo jumbo that Twitch gives you. This is just generally a good streamable quality. The only place that I know of that you can stream at a much higher quality is YouTube. On YouTube, I personally can stream all the way up to 50,000. That's a lot. But it really depends on two things. Your internet speed, how much you can send to the web. Now, I've seen for YouTube, a lot of people will do something like a 10,000 quality or something. So now that we're done with some output settings, you don't need to mess with advanced. This is just gonna confuse you. Accessibility is if you obviously need it. Hotkeys we'll go into in a second. You've already gone into video. So now what we need to do is we need to go into audio, because how can they hear you, right? Now that we're on the audio tab, there's gonna be a whole bunch of really strange looking audio things here. Basically what you need to know is your desktop audio and your desktop audio 2 are the internal things that you're going to be doing that are going towards your audience. So if you play music, it's going to come through a desktop audio. If you watch a video on Chrome, it's going to come through a desktop audio. If you play games, and game sound will come through a desktop audio. So for me, I don't use these. I use a mic input, which will basically become my stream mix A. And I also use a stream mix B. And what these do for me in my situation, because I use a mixer and I use an XLR mic setup, and that goes into an interface, an audio interface, which then goes to a program that I manage every individual sound, which then combines it into a stream mix. I know that's really complicated. You don't need to worry about any of that. So for you, you're just gonna wanna enable this default probably, and then you're gonna want to just add a mic. So for normal people, it's gonna come up like this. You might have, a USB mic. So I have a USB mic right behind me that I'm not using for this video, and it will be at the bottom. You just have to look for it. So once you enable that, then go ahead and hit apply. And you'll notice in the background that I now have new audio tracks. So I don't really want them to be called that because that's gonna get really confusing. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hit the 3 dots and I'm gonna rename this one. I think this is Stream Mix A. Yeah, I think this is Stream Mix A. So because it's Stream Mix A, that is my mic. My mic is on Stream Mix A. So I'm gonna go with I'm gonna misspell this, Sennheiser, all right? Because that's my mic. And then I'm gonna go for this one, I'm gonna do Stream Mix. Again, you should label it for what you have. For you, it most likely would be music or game sound. But for me, it's all in one, so I'll put Stream Mix. And if I want to get super technical, I could go game, music, etc. So now I have 2 different sounds, and you can see that one of them is picking up right away. That's because that one in particular was my mic. One thing that you're gonna notice is it's not doing it here because I have again built in, I have some audio features, but you're probably gonna notice that it's gonna be going very far into the red at certain points, maybe even peaking if you're super loud like I am. And so what's really cool, and we'll go into it in a future video more so, but what's really cool is that you can actually click on this little 3 dots and you can go to filters. Just like with my webcam, you can use filters. And so you can actually add, a compressor, you can add a noise gate, and you can even add this really fancy noise suppression, this NVIDIA-based noise suppression, which is very, very good. So I can add this and basically do the better quality one, hopefully. You can do that one. And basically it will help eliminate some of the background noises that I might have, like a fan or, because I'm getting really hot during stream or something, or maybe I hit my desk a bunch. It will actually help make sure that those sounds don't happen, right? For now, just a basic noise suppression and even a basic limiter hidden where you don't peak all the time. So if you add it and it's just make it like, -6 or -7, then that means that it will never go past that point on your track. So although your mics may be inconsistent until you do a compressor, you will at the very least not break anyone's eardrums, if that makes sense. So that's a good starting point, a noise suppression and a limiter. All right, so the last thing is let's show some hotkeys. So we can click back into our settings. So what's really cool about hotkeys is it's an easy way for you to switch things while talking or while recording. And so one of the things it's most useful for is you can switch to a scene. So if I want to switch to my BRB scene, I can click on my keyboard, something that I don't think will be used. I'll make it this one, okay? And then if I want to switch to my gameplay scene, I'll make it this one. And then if I want to switch to my just chatting scene, I'll finally make it a comma. And these are just examples. Do not pick these because you might need them in game. Hit apply, okay. Now if I want to switch scenes, I can just click that hotkey that I set and it will switch scenes, which is super, super, super useful, especially if you need to, hit recording so you can be focused on the camera. You can hit stop recording with the same button and it will look pretty seamless and no one will know what's going on. But if I want to switch scenes, I can hit one of these buttons and then voila, all done. Don't forget to post your questions in the comments below. If you have any hiccups or things that happen, you don't know why, then I will try to go through those individually and respond to them. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next video. YouTube thinks that you'll like these videos, so maybe check one out. See you soon.